So people are joining us now. I'm Wendy Purcell. I'm really pleased to be here. So if you want to, when you join the room, if you'd just like to say hello in the chat, it'd be great to get a conversation going. We're starting in a couple of minutes, just as allow that little bit of time for people to join in Zoom. I think we've all got used to people settling in, coming in at the top of the hour. So please settle in, say hello in the chat, post any comments or questions that you have as we go along. We want this to be, hello from Virginia, hi Tim, it's great to have you here. So please do just say hello as part of a dialogue session. So we'll get started in a minute, but this is one of a number of events. There are really exciting events that are happening across this SDG 2022 week of action and awareness. So I've posted in the chat the link to all the other events that are going on. And if some of those you might have time to get to live as you're joining us live, others, if you look at them and they're really interesting to what you're doing, then you can go onto the University Global Coalition website afterwards, and you'll see them all there. And you'll have the chance to see what else is going on and how you can make a contribution. So it's good to have you here. So really pleased to have you. Okay, I'm going to kick off. And the way that the session is going to run is we're just going to hear from Katie Mathers, who's the commissioning editor for this really exciting book series. We have the opportunity then to hear, this is the first time in public that we're talking about this book series. We're going to hear from some of the incredible editors who are going to lead their particular books and give us some insights. I'll make a few comments about the book series and just our kind of our intentions really for the book series. And also we'll be joined by Brighton Kaoma, who is the SDSN, so Sustainable Development Solutions Network, Global Director of Youth, because one of the key kind of differentiators of this book is the way that we will feature the student voice. So welcome, add your name and hellos and to the chat. Check out the link in the chat for the other events that are going on in this Global Action and Awareness Week for the SDGs, and feel very much part of this dialogue. So I'm gonna hand over to Katie. If you want to keep your camera on while we're doing this, please do. If you want to just type notes and things in the chat, please do so. Please note that we are recording, and we will place this recording again on the University Global Coalition website, so you can have a look at it later on. So without further ado, Katie, if I could hand over to you, and I will drive your deck from here. So.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Wendy. So as Wendy mentioned, I'm commissioning editor here at Emerald Publishing, and I've worked with Wendy for nearly over the past 2 years on scoping and building this series proposal. And as you can probably tell, we're really so excited to be here today to speak publicly for the first time about this exciting new book series. And I just really wanted to take this time to talk about Emerald's commitment to SDG aligned and impactful research, and really contextualise our commission of the Higher Education and Sustainable Development Goals series. So just moving on to the next slide, please, Wendy. So at Emerald, we strive to be a home for research that achieves attention, reach, and real-world impact. We recognise that it's essential that we publishers help to further changing academia, but that we should also be looking to support research that can make a difference to society. So in 2018, we announced our Real Impact Manifesto, which introduced our commitment to publish research which makes a difference and invest further in the research community to support real world change, as well as challenge traditional metrics of impact and drive impact literacy. In 2019, we became an early signatory of DORA, which is the Declaration on Research Assessment, which recognises the need to improve the ways in which researchers and the outputs of scholarly research are evaluated. And since then, we've been looking to publish the best social science research that's aligned to the Sustainable Development Goals and has real impact. We signed the SDG Publishers Compact as a founding signatory in December 2020. And signing the SDG Publisher Compact was the natural next step for us in our journey towards reimagining content beyond the article and creating content that aligns to the UN SDGs and that has a mission focus. So just to the next slide, please. The UN SDG Publisher Compact recognizes the important role that publishers can play in advancing progress towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. So signatories commit to the 10 action points, aiming to develop sustainable practices and act as champions of the SDGs during the decade of action. These include commitments such as publicly committing to the SDGs, promoting and acquiring SDG content, being an advocate to an SDG advocate to customers and stakeholders, and collaborating across cities, countries, and continents. So at Emerald, we recognise that these commitments need to be reflected in practices across our business. And so we have structured our approach by embedding the compact and considering the impact across 6 key pillars of our business, as you can see on screen. And all of the above has really given us a momentum of change towards a truly mission-led approach. So just moving to the next slide, please. So at the end of 2020, we created 4 Emerald goals based on our analysis of funding, research, and our own content strengths upon which we could build. And these are fairer society, healthier lives, responsible management, and quality education for all, each of which are mapped to the SDGs, as you can see on screen. And this was really us taking a step towards walking the talk and being truly mission-led and trying to attract the best social science research that's going to have real societal impact. So each goal corresponds to a set of overlapping SDGs and missions, as you can see on this slide, and these continue to evolve. And in terms of the missions, we are able to pose important questions and commission and create research content that demonstrates progress in attempting to answer them. The aim is to curate our content across SDG missions and themes to allow researchers to surface relevant scholarship related to their mission-led research. Equally, in terms of organisational structure, our books and journals commissioning editors are focused on commissioning into these 4 key areas. But in addition, all areas of our business across marketing, publishing, sales are focused around these 4 key missions. Next slide, please. So for each of our goals, we have an advisor. The 4 goal advisors are experts in their respective fields and represent fairer society, responsible management, quality education for all, and healthier lives. And I'm delighted to say that Wendy is not only our series editor for the Higher Education and Sustainable Development Goals series, but she's also our goal advisor for the Fairer Society goal. And the aim of the advisors is to actively engage with the community to the understanding of the aims and objectives of our goals and encourage contributions from thought leaders and influencers feeding back to Emerald so we can better understand the needs and challenges of the community in this context. Advisors also advise on key themes and missions that are current, topical, and likely to bring engagement through debate and encourage development of related research. And they help commission experts in such key areas to develop exciting and new forms of content to reach a variety of stakeholders. So just turning to the final slide, please. So bringing this back to the Higher Education and the Sustainable Development Goals series, which we're here to talk about today. What I've tried to do in the past few slides is just kind of give this exciting context as to why we commissioned the series. The aim of the series, as you'll hear later on today from Wendy and from some of our individual book editors, is to provide a cutting-edge solutions-based approach to the role of higher education in accelerating the fulfilment of the SDGs and the SDG 2030 Agenda Programme and beyond. So taking each SDG in turn, each book will examine how universities are delivering against each SDG directly through their teaching and learning, research and innovation, and community engagement and service. And of course, our editors and Wendy will speak to this in more detail later on, but we're really excited to be a part of this conversation about the role of higher education as a mobilizer of change. And as a home of mission-led, impactful research, this series couldn't really be more fitting. So that's it from me today. So we'll be moving on now to hear from some of our editors, but please do keep the conversation going in the chat, and I'll be very happy to take questions later on in the session. So thank you very much for inviting me to speak, Wendy.
I think it really shows us, Katie, just that commitment from Emerald. This is a really big strategic pivot as Emerald really leans into this space. And so I'm going to stop sharing now and come back to talk a little bit about the book series. But I think at the heart of this is a sense that what higher education is doing in this space, what we do across the work that we do around our teaching and learning, as Katie says, our research and innovation, our civic and community work really matters. It really matters to really lean in to these grand challenges of our day and to help and play our fullest part in I think, creating a world where no one's left behind, that ultimate outcome of their Sustainable Development Goals. So without further ado, I want to stop sharing and invite President Ángel Cabrera, who is the president of Georgia Tech, who is joining us now as with a hat on of being our editor for what will be the first book in the series. That's SDG 17. So if I could stop sharing and invite you, Ángel, to just tell us a little bit about the book that you're planning.
Yeah, Wendy, thank you so much. Thank you for the intro, and thank you for the leadership in this very important program, and really very, very excited about being able to document the unbelievable work that is being done across the world from our universities. And I think it is very fitting that one of the first volumes in the series, maybe the first, will be dedicated to the last goal, because it's in a way absolutely instrumental to the role that universities can play, and that is the goal 17 on partnerships. So the book is going to explore why and how universities are uniquely situated to galvanize and partnerships, to convene partnerships, to drive efforts, not just of our very own faculty and students, but most importantly as sort of that trusted convener that can bring other actors in our communities to drive change. So it's going to be a collection of real cases, of real experiences that highlight the multitude of partnerships that can and should be formed. It's going to be very global, incredible, exciting and diverse group of authors, and we'll try to make sense out of it also in our introductory chapter. What is it that we can learn that may help other leaders in higher education around the world? Just to give you a sense of the chapters, we have Nikhil Seth, who's the executive director of UNITAR, and who had a really unique perspective into the formation of the Sustainable Development Goals and the role that universities played in it, and also the multiple networks and partnerships that exist. So I think it's going to be a very interesting context setting. Then we have Mamogeti Fakeng, who's and some of her colleagues from the University of Cape Town, providing really a fascinating experience from the African perspective in the role that Cape Town has played. We have Joanna Newman, who is the head of the Association of Commonwealth Universities, which is in itself a network of universities, but it's a network that has really geared, and it's a global network. Of course, these are universities in all the countries in the Commonwealth. And the association in the last few years has taken a pretty big turn, if you will, and focused their attention in sustainability and all the concepts in the SDGs. So we will have a great perspective from what existing networks can do. We also have Sam Vagar from the Millennium Campus Network, and I know some people on this call are active participants in that experience. That is, and by the way, I probably should have framed it earlier, that the book will have a very clear orientation towards students and the student experience. I mean, we want to highlight that ultimately our shared number one responsibility as institutions is is the student experience. But this chapter about the Millennium Campus Network will specifically focus on that in an absolutely student-oriented initiative, and also the power of networks to create more transformative experiences for our students. We'll follow with a piece from the SDSN Australia leaders. A few folks led by Tal Keston in Australia, they have developed a really very interesting a roadmap and handbook as to how universities can engage. So we've asked them to dig deeper onto the specific role of partnerships. Very excited because they've done a lot of work in this space. We also have a chapter from Tec de Monterrey. Our colleagues at Tec de Monterrey have led a unique global classroom. I was going to call it experiment. Actually, that under appreciates what they've done, because it's more than experiment. This is a program that now has already touched thousands of students, and how to bring together the teaching resources from universities in different countries to not just make students aware, and their global classroom is fully oriented towards sustainable development goals. It's a fascinating study that I can't wait for the world to hear about. And there's one last chapter that we were finally, by the way, Wendy as our editor and Katie, we were able to successfully twist the arm of our colleagues, and we will have a chapter on Drawdown Georgia, which is a unique partnership of business and universities to try to find solutions to really to lower carbon emissions in a specific context. In this case, the state of Georgia. And it brings students, it brings research, it brings businesses. So we will also get into the complexity and the outcome of that partnership. So that's our book. It draws heavily, as you can see, from partners in the University Global Coalition, which was formed in 2019 with a precise goal of the belief that by partnering, we can share best practice, we can encourage one another, and we can leverage each other's resources to have a bigger impact. So that's my...
Wow. I could just say, wow, sounds amazing. Thank you so much, President Cabrera. And I think pointing to the convening power of universities, the amplification through our students and the work that we do, but also this incredible generosity of our sector in terms of sharing here. So can we thank you for joining us? I know you have to disappear for a keynote as part of the University Global Coalition, but thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. Thank you for your leadership and for that network. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Fantastic.
Appreciate it.
Great. That's, I hope you're as excited as I am to see that book coming together. It's wonderful to have the seat to see the development of these ideas. And I think it points to this, really, the sense of what we do here matters. The opportunity for us to bring our assets as higher education into this space is just so profound. And I think this series, and Ángel said it there in terms of its global reach, the opportunity to share examples, and I think really help us turn our commitment to the betterment of society by being part of the value creation, by working alongside our students, working alongside our partners. And I'm really excited to see how this series will illustrate the different dimensions of the SDGs and higher education coming together, because we see this when we look at, not those 17 boxes as we're used to seeing the iconography of the SDGs, but when we start to look at how the targets talk to each other and the interdependencies and the connections among them, it's really interesting to see as we invest in education, as we invest in research and civic engagement and community engagement, the ripple effects that we see across delivery of those targets across the other SDGs, and the way that we're really exploring the SDGs, that they're nested. I mean, Katie talked about those themes in terms of the different missions of Emerald, but for a fairer society, for example, we understand how a healthy economy, needs to emerge from a healthy society, and that needs to be held up and supported by a healthy planetary system. And so, I think it's very interesting to slice into the SDGs in different ways here and see these interdependencies and see these connections. And so I think this is where this book series, taking 17 books, yes, looking deeply at each of the SDGs and illustrating those, but then also showing those connections. And we will make sure that we don't lose that interdependence, we don't lose those connections. So the book series is a series, and we'll connect the series through the introduction as from me as series editor, but also in the way that we bring this whole series forward. We will make sure that happens. Let's look at those 17 books. We've heard, a kind of taster already of book 17, and I think Ángel is right. It's very fitting for us to start out to say, let us as higher education play our fullest part as a committed partner in this agenda. So partnership for the goals, and showing the opportunity through our networks, our associations, and actually, frankly, the work that our students and graduates go on to do, the work of our executive education students, the work of our partners in different ways. So it's wonderful to start there. But I'm very excited to think about the editors who are also part of this first 6 books, and to introduce you to Ambassador Sarah Nelson, Professor at Carnegie Mellon, who will be taking us, I think, on a very interesting journey through SDG 16. So we'll meet with her now. And then I will bring to you some of the other editors, but I wanted just to introduce them to you very briefly here. So you've met with Ángel, you're going to meet with Sarah in a moment. SDG 14, a dear friend and colleague, Simon Davis, will be taking us through that, a global aquaculturalist. And he will be, I think, exploring that life below water. Our colleagues at University, Politécnica, Madrid, so Julio Lambreras and Jaime Cedino, will come and talk to us as editors, co-editors of SDG 11. And then we have Khadisha Kalsoom from Pakistan, who will talk through, I think, SDG 5. She can't join us here today, but I think it's going to be a very interesting dimension that she will take for SDG 5, gender equality. And then a dear new colleague, so Professor Tawani Coupe, who is the president of Pretoria University, who has a wonderful thought process ongoing already for SDG 4, quality education. So they're our first 6 editors in the series, and we meet with some of them today. But I really wanted to use this opportunity to be invitational. Recognize this is a book series of 17. So we have other editors to commission, other book chapters from some of those SDGs, and really just to open up to our community that sense of please engage with us with your ideas, with dialogue. You may want to suggest yourself or a colleague to be an editor. You may have some really compelling ideas for chapters and approaches. So please, this is an invitation to be part of the rest of the series, as well as learning about the book series that's already those first 6 that are in motion and will be coming out soon. So let me then turn to Sarah. So as I say, Ambassador Professor Sarah Mendelson. Sarah, it's a privilege to have you here and for you to share with us, I think, some of your thinking about how SDG 16 as a book is shaping up. So please, can I invite you to take the floor?
Thank you so much, Wendy, and thank you to Katie and Emerald Publishing for this terrific opportunity. So even before the global pandemic struck 2 years ago, for a variety of reasons, many scholars were noting that traditional approaches to teaching, researching, and advancing human rights were in need of a refresh. Out of the multiple crises we have experienced over these last 2 years arise opportunities. I'm therefore proposing an edited volume that explores how to ground an emerging paradigm shift, how to field build the next generation that approaches human rights with a different set of lenses and skills. This edited volume emerges and builds on multiple convenings, including discussions on the topic in summer 2020 and summer 2021 during the Brookings Institution and Rockefeller Foundation's flagship 17 rooms exercise. It also will build on workshops and meetings that we anticipate to be convened in The Hague during the World Justice Forum this May and early June, and another one at the Bellagio Center either later in 2022 or early 2023. The edited volume is going to explore the globally agreed to framework of the SDGs, the leave no one behind ethos, and the SDG 16+ agenda of advancing peaceful, just, inclusive societies. We're going to do this through case studies in a handful of cities and communities. This approach puts greater emphasis on reducing inequality and inequity, advances an understanding of sustainability in the round beyond the environmental issues, as well as a universal conception of development. This is not just about the global South or things international, but also applies domestically. It recognizes the interdependence of the SDGs and the need to reduce the silos between domestic and international work. Now, building on the important work of local right to the city activism and the global human rights cities movement, this edited volume examines a local global approach informed by city level data analyses and practice, rather than national level data analyses and practice. The case studies, which will include studies of Los Angeles, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Toronto, Buenos Aires, and South Africa, to name a few, also contribute to a revamped human rights training through experiential learning at a moment when students, scholars, and practitioners require a new set of skills and understandings to address the complex interactions among economic, social, political, and environmental systems. This book offers a cutting-edge approach to researching and teaching these critical issues. We see this volume as interdisciplinary in the sense that the book, while with many well-established authors in the field of human rights, will move well beyond legal frameworks, the traditional milieu of human rights scholars, and will instead emphasize the interconnected aspect of the SDGs to achieve a number of socioeconomic rights. It will apply a developmental lens to human rights, and in some chapters, authors, including students who are engaged in a year-long capstone project, will also use disaggregated data, right? We want to know who exactly is being left behind and explore where data doesn't exist. That's also a finding. And we want to be able to help shape and advocate for a human-centered data ecosystem. Let me just close by saying how truly important universities have emerged as stable platforms to advance the SDGs. As someone who was involved in the creation of the SDGs, both when I was at USAID, I was actually the US interagency lead on what became SDG 16, but also my experience as US ambassador to ECOSOC. It was not my experience, as perhaps colleagues at UNITAR, that we conceived of this as involving universities, right? This was a national level project. But what we found instead is not only are universities playing an enormous role, cities are playing an enormous role, as our colleagues are going to explain in a minute. Localization and really translating the SDGs into local action is so critical, particularly in trying to engage what I call cohort 2030, this next generation, to understand what the SDGs mean. Sometimes it can seem very abstract, and our goal here is to make this really practical. Now, this is all an incredibly welcome turn of events that universities are engaged. It certainly has been the case where I work at Carnegie Mellon, and I expect this volume and others in the series are going to add to the SDG movement, fundamental to growing the generation cohort 2030 and reaching far beyond academia. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Again, I'm just So excited about the approach that you're taking there. And I think that local global access, but also calling out for new models, and a wonderful segue for our colleagues now to talk about SDG 11. So if I could ask and invite Professor Julio Lambreras and Dr. Jaime Moreno-Serna, who are our co-editors for SDG 11. So a wonderful introduction around the role of cities, Julio. So please take the floor.
Thank you so much, Wendy. Thank you for inviting us. Thank you for your leadership. And also thank you, Emerald, for organizing this publication, which I think is extremely relevant and necessary now. So thank you so much. And just so our idea when Wendy asked us to edit this book on the SDG 11, right? So we thought about the problems we are facing that we all know, and all the problems, including climate change, but not only loss of biodiversity, social problems, population evolution with all the demographic problems, all are systemic problems, right? That cannot be solved in a traditional way using incremental solutions, right? And our idea when we try to think about the cities where the sustainability will be won or lose, right? Because according to the UN Secretary General and according to all the evidence, we are fighting against or we are fighting towards sustainability in cities. So we see that the cities can play the role of showcasing how this systemic approach can really be implemented, right? In a way that we can solve these problems at the pace and scale that is needed, right? So we try to apply this idea of the importance of the systemic approach to a city. And I've been working with the European Commission on a cities mission, which aims at delivering 100 climate neutral cities by 2030 with this systemic approach. And our idea is focusing the book on how universities can help implementing this systemic approach at the city level, right? And of course, well, we have also a slide deck, so no, okay, I'm not able, no problem, so I can continue without it. So
I can make you co-host. That's absolutely fine. I can do that now.
Okay, well, thank you. But
yes.
Okay, great, thank you. So no.
You should be able to share. Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, perfect. But it's not that important. But just to show the main, yes, I'm doing that if I can. One moment. Okay, there we go. So as I was saying, we see cities as systems, right, where we can make this transformation, combining technological solutions, legislation, new regulation, fiscal incentives, cultural changes, new finance systems, and so forth, with a portfolio of projects and initiatives that are coordinated to transform the system, right? And we see the higher education institutions as the conveners, as the President Cabrera was also saying before, and you, Professor Purcell, was also saying, and we focus on which in the chapter the idea is to focus on which are the roles that the higher education institutions can play to foster this transformation, right? Through their capacity to convene stakeholders, through the research capacity, through the importance of teaching and training on leadership skills, creating relationship with all the stakeholders, and through massive youth engagement, right? And that was the idea, and we split the chapter, or the book, into different chapters according to the roles that institutions, the higher institutions can play. And then Jaime will explain in more detail which will be the different chapters.
Thank you, Julio, and thank you, Wendy, and thank you so much, everyone. So we will have a great variety of authors and with different and complementary backgrounds to address the different chapters. We'll have, for example, Franziska Enhardt from the Leibniz Institute of Ecological, Urban and Regional Development in Germany, that we will bring us the perspective of universities, urban transitions and transformations research. We will have also Jory de Jong from the Bloomberg Harvard City Leadership Initiative, explaining how universities may equip city officials with leadership skills and management tools to address the challenges that we face. We will have also the Boston Green Ribbon Commission to talk about this convening capacity of the universities. We will have also Olga Kordas, a great Swedish professor from KTH, from the Royal Technical Institute of Stockholm, bringing her experience in creating national platforms to transform cities throughout a country perspective. We will bring also people from the practice or from the policy making, and we will have Matthew Baldwin, the manager of the mission of the city missions of the European Commission, and Thomas Ozdoba, the coordinator of a big project, European project called Net Zero City, that is creating the multi-stakeholder and systemic oriented platform oriented to support this mission oriented to have 100 climate neutral and smart cities by 2030 in Europe. We will have also cases from Latin America with the SDG Center at Los Andes, Colombia, or from Africa with the New African Urban University that will bring the perspective on the role of African universities to co-produce urban knowledge to advance to this SDG 11. So as you see, we will have really complementary and different backgrounds in the authors, but we want this publication to contribute to a practical effort, because all these people are connected to really practical efforts to consolidate and to spread the systemic understanding of the transformation needed to achieve climate neutrality in cities, and to highlight the prominent role that universities may play in the acceleration of the transition towards net zero. So thank you so much, and we'll be really keen also to include the voice of students that Wendy mentioned before, as we think it's a great idea, and we will have different workshops and activities to really interact with students with this global perspective and to include their voice in this publication. Thank you so much.
Julio, Jaime, thank you. Thank you so much. Very exciting, and as you know, I love the idea of the anchor institution and that radical collaboration that you're talking about. But also, I think you're pointing to the scale of a city and how we can operate locally, but then connect up with those, 100 city projects and so on. So you also mentioned their youth, and so it's my great pleasure to invite Brighton, Kaoma. I trailed you, Brighton, in the introduction as being our SDSN, United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network Global Director for Youth. And I think, as you know, we've had a number of conversations, the student voice is a key differentiator for us in this book series. And I think each of our editors has mentioned students in different ways and their involvement in different ways in each of their books. But I really wanted to invite you just to make some comments about how important that perspective is, but also I think we're planning a number of activities and events together, which will help showcase the book series, but also the incredible agency of our students in being those agents of change and being part of the transition that both Julio and Jaime just mentioned. So Brighton, can I invite you to unmute and if you can put your camera on and talk to us about really the voice of youth. So thank you. Oh, I think we just lost him. He'll dial back in. So Brighton and I and Emerald through Katie are planning, I think, to convene with youth in different ways that to really bring this series to life and showcase that agency of our students. I think they're looking to navigate higher education in many different ways. They're looking to combine disciplines in radical new combinations, which I think is really interesting. And there's also a sense that instead of choosing a major, they're really focusing on choosing a purpose. And part of that purpose is the fundamental outcome of the SDGs, which is around equity. And so I think there is a real sense that if we can harness not only their inherent talents, but if we can align them with that delivery against the SDGs and see the amplification that they will, as professionals, as graduates, as active global citizens, I think we will see the youth voice coming through so strongly. Brighton, welcome back. Thank you for reconnecting. I was filling
Thank you
for
so
you.
much.
So I'm going to hand over to you. Thanks, Brighton.
Excellent. No, I'm very excited for this opportunity to be invited to meet all of you incredible people and listen to all the incredible and amazing ideas around how best we can promote intergenerational dialogue in the space of contributing to the body of knowledge on the Sustainable Development Goals. I have the privilege of leading one of the largest network of young people called the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network Youth. And at SDSN Youth, we mobilize a coterie of about 5,000 young people from around the world who are working on localizing the SDGs in their own communities. And over the last 5 years, we have supported young entrepreneurs, young social entrepreneurs. We've incubated over 500 solutions from around the world. We run over 100 hubs in 100 universities. So these are SDG hubs. Apart from that, we also organize the annual Vatican Youth Symposium that brings leaders in government and civil society organizations to engage in productive dialogue on the SDGs with young people. So the opportunity of collaborating with Professor Wendy, Purcell, and Emerald Publishing is to give young people the opportunity for them to speak about the things which they see important to them within the realm of SDGs. So for the next coming months, we are going to be running a series of webinars where we'll speak about the 17 books on SDGs, but at the same time, amplify the work of young authors from around the world. And for us, this is important because we believe that we can harness the power of the 1.8 billion young people. And I always imagine how the world would be if we empowered the next generation of young leaders with the right skills, the right tools, and the right knowledge to be global active agents of change in their communities. So to us, this is an important opportunity. It's an important privilege. And we look forward to working together with Emerald Publishing, Professor Wendy, and all the team from the University Global Coalition. Our doors are very open, and my team is already actively working to make sure that the next series of discussions, virtual discussions, don't leave anyone behind. We'll touch every young person from South Africa to Somalia, to the United States, all the way to Bangladesh. And our intention is that we create an opportunity that gives equal access to knowledge and platforms for young people from around the world. So very excited about working together.
That's wonderful, Brighton. That's just beautifully expressed. And I think just having, I mentioned the generosity, but having that generosity to bring us into that network that's established, and to enable, you know, those young people, as you say. I mean, Sarah talked about, you know, cohort 2030 and beyond, you know, but we are just so looking forward to the kinds of events and sessions that we can do together around this book. So thank you for coming today as well and sharing that with us. So we're done in terms of just telling you a little bit about the book. Very open to any comments or questions or reflections. Also to follow up dialogue. You know, we're very sincere about that sense of being invitational. Many of you here and who are watching online later, you know, are right at the heart of these networks, have compelling stories that really are, I think, as Julio and Jaime said, are practical. You know, so yes, this is an academic book series, but it needs to contain actionable, practical, scalable examples. And I think all of our editors are curating a suite of examples which are actionable, practical, you know, scalable. That's really important to us. They're offering them up generously. And I think, you know, the sense of global reach, I think you've heard from each of those editors that were able to be here today. It is a global series. These are global goals. Higher education is a global activity. And as Brighton just, you know, said so beautifully, you know, the ability to activate those 2 billion and beyond as the book series happens over the next few years, young people. I mean, this is a profound opportunity. And so we are very sincere about being invitational. So please see this as an open dialogue as opposed to us telling you what's going on. This is very much an invitation to be part of this journey over the next few, you know, probably 3-5 years and beyond. So just enough from me. Comments, questions in the chat, and also I reposted the link to all the other things that are going on this week. So please, if you feel free to unmute or to put a question in the chat, we're happy to reflect on those. Thank you.
Good morning from Virginia.
Hello. Hi from Virginia. Hi, Tim.
I'm going to ask a terrible question for creative people.
Yeah.
What's the timeline for the creation? It sounds like I get the sense that things are developing, and I love it. It's beautiful that it's unfolding in that way. And I'm just curious to know are there any guideposts along the timeline you can tell us about, please? Thanks.
Yes. Yeah. Let me look at my folder that has that. So we have a sense of those first 6 books in the series. So we definitely have a timeline kind of sketched out about that. So we would expect the full manuscript for SDG 17 to be coming in the fall of this year. So Katie can advise me how long that takes to then, you know, emerge into the public domain. But after that, they're coming in a series about every 6 months after that. So each book, once we engage with an editor, there's probably from the time of engaging with them, there's probably an 18 months sort of period. So it's really important, and I think Emerald have been very sensitive to this, is recognizing, you know, the very many calls upon our time, I think the huge burden that we have all, you know, experienced through COVID, but also recognizing, you know, that this series is really important. So there isn't a sense of just churning material. It is a very measured project that's happening over the next 3-5 years. So that's the kind of approach. Those first 6 that you've seen, you know, 17, 16, 14, 11, 5, and 4, those first 6 are in the works, and they'll be happening over the next kind of two years, you know, coming out. But I would imagine, Katie, when do you think 17 will come out if it comes in fall of this year?
Yeah, so if we're looking around a fall submission date for the manuscript, then we'd be looking at spring 23 publication, looking at around 6 months for our publication schedule. But yeah, just to kind of really echo what Wendy was saying, we're definitely, you know, this is a long-term project, and it's definitely going to be, you know, kind of, you know, looking around sort of 5 years for the whole project to moving forward. So that's what we're committed to, and it's amazing because we're bringing together all these amazing scholars, and it's so exciting. So very happy to be.
And I think you see that. I think you see that already. I mean, just, you know, from those tiny little vignettes that we've had from each of our editors, you've seen not only the caliber of the editorial of the editors, but actually the reach that they've had through their networks, because people see this as not just, you know, a book that's going to sit on the shelf, but it's part of a movement, part of an agenda, and with the full backing of Emerald, who have reorientated their entire publishing strategy, as Katie outlined, around, you know, this sense of this agenda around sustainable development. So, you know, there's a real feel that this is set up for being something that is going to, you know, shift the dial in a way. And I think in not only showcase what higher education is currently doing globally, but actually show people the art of the possible, that they will be able to pick it up and run with it. And so we get that scaling. I think that's great. So yeah, thank you very much, Tim. So, you know, please do reach out, and just, you know, it's always important for me working with, you know, busy people, is to relax their shoulders and say, look, there's time to do something great here. So I think that's really important. So any other comments or questions, happy to take them. Yeah, Sharon. Thank you, Sharon. Do you want to? Greetings from Turkey. That's great. So let me just see if I've got some questions in the chat. Please feel free to unmute if I can see that. So yeah, Sharon, I think I would echo your comments there. This sense of mission driven is such a powerful part, and I was so excited to see Katie kind of outline that level of detail around the mission. So thank you for that, Sharon. That's really good feedback for us. Good evening from Turkey, joining from Istanbul, studying sustainable tourism, which is one of my passions as well. You should come join my course at Harvard, running in the fall. And so please do. Yeah, so good. I'm very grateful to you. Thank you very much for your comments there. And I look forward to seeing our books in the library as well. But I also want to see them off the library shelves and in the hands of people that are doing things. So Jaime, your hand I see, please. Unmute.
Very, very brief comment. We were discussing with Julio a way to articulate the participation of students in a non-conventional way. And we were thinking about using art and cultural creation as an lever to promote a different conversation among students, because we have some experiences in that way in Madrid, using contemporary creation as a tool for creating new narratives to frame the climate crisis. And we were thinking that maybe it could be useful also to articulate the students' participation and trying to design and then or to promote different types of workshops.
I think that would be amazing, because I think one of the things that really emerges about this is that the students in this space, they're not passive recipients of what higher education is doing to them. You know, they really are in that active citizenship space. And I think one of the things that the arts and the communication tools in that way bring a way of conveying what is hugely complex scientific and technical information around the Sustainable Development Goals, but it connects them to our hearts in a way that, you know, as academics, you know, we talk about that, you know, we operate in the head, but actually the Sustainable Development Goals have a huge part around the heart and the hand. And so, you know, being practical, you mentioned, you know, capturing our heart and allowing us to use the arts and the communication tools to really recognize the emotional part of this agenda as well. And that's really what activates students. It's that sense of purpose. It's that sense of making a difference. And so that would be a super exciting approach and something very different and very visible in the city. You know, it becomes part, you know, I know Madrid well, and that sense of the cultural appreciation is where the arts agenda also plays in. So that could be really exciting. And I think, you know, you would find different students, not only those in the kind of STEM fields. Sometimes the SDGs takes on a very STEM heavy approach. Those, you know, the sort of science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and we forget, you know, the critical contribution of, you know, the humanities, of the liberal arts, of the sense of the arts and the cultural space. So that would be a very nice space. So thank you for that, Jamie. That's a great contribution. Yes, Tim.
Wendy, you mentioned earlier that you also had in mind some thoughts about convening with youth in a variety of ways. And just to piggyback onto your previous comments, is there anything else more specific you'd like to mention? Yeah,
so Brighton and I are busy plotting at the moment. So we've had a great conversation with Katie at Emerald. So we should be launching something in the next probably 3-6 months, and that will be a series of convenings. So some of those will be things that are going on now. We can have a special session. Some of them will be, you know, Emerald kind of convenings where we will bring together some of the authors, the editors for some of these deeper dives. It's great to see, you know, the kind of big picture stuff here that we're doing today. But I think to sit alongside some of those authors, some of those students, some of those sort of stories behind this would be just a great opportunity. No, I can't tell you now because we haven't got the detail, but I think what we've got is an exciting sense of ambition and plan. And Brighton has, as I said, very generously invited us into that global network. So that gives us that infrastructure as well. So please, I'll stick my email in the chat. You can just email me, and the minute I hear about anything, I'll email you directly, Tim. So you can be the first to sign up. So we'll get that. Great. I'm just going to, yeah, go ahead. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much. Sarah's just going to say cheerio. She's very, very busy. So Sarah, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate that. I'll just put my email in the chat if people want to reach out. That's fine. Katie, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that I think, you know, something that we were really excited about back when we first started talking about the series, which is nearly 2 years ago, which seems crazy to me, but we, you know, from the get-go, we were talking about the student voice and, you know, how can we really amplify that within each of the books. And I think, you know, these kinds of conversations that we're having with Brighton, for example, and, you know, with all of the editors as we're talking about new proposals for books in the series, it is such an exciting opportunity to really amplify that youth voice.
I think it also takes the book series because I think, you know, with Emerald, it's not just the book, it's the other content. I mean, Katie pointed to, you know, the sort of broader, you know, sort of publishing strategy, but I think there's other content. So it keeps this sense of the series is a very dynamic, you know, so I imagine that, you know, sort of the early, you know, these first 6, the following 6 will be very different. There'll be a dynamism about it, there'll be other events. And so I think that sense of a lived experience of this book series is going to be really important. So that's where these other pieces of content and collateral activities, in a sense, really kind of bring that energy to it as well, which I think I'm really excited about. So it becomes, you know, I mean, you mentioned it being mission-led, but it becomes a real sense of a mission for us to reinvent, I think in many ways, the role of higher education here. We've been unsung in many ways in this space and have been doing sterling work. And I think if we can just align ourselves in different ways, you'll just see this acceleration that I think frankly we need. So any final comments or questions before we close out the session and I stop recording? Or and I just thank you for your attention, staying with us. I think we've exhausted you. You're excited. I want to just go onto Amazon now and just order them all. You know, order all 17 books straight away. We just want to have them. So yeah, Jamie, thank you so much, Jamie, for coming. Thanks for sharing. Julio, thank you for sharing. Thank you to Sarah Mendelson for Ángel Cabrera. And also to my other two sort of 3 editors, so that's Simon Davies, to Tawana Coupe, President at the University of Pretoria, and also to Kudisha Kalsoom from Pakistan. I'm really excited about their contributions, and maybe in the next time we convene, we can hear about their early thoughts. But thank you also for all the work that you're doing. Many of you I know, many of you who are online, I'm sure will reach out, and I just want to applaud the work that you're doing. When I talk about what higher education does matters, I really believe that, and I know it, I see it, I feel it. So thank you very much for all your work. Thank you so much. So I'll stop recording. Wish you all a wonderful good evening, good morning, good night, good day, and thank you also to Emerald. I think, Katie, if you want to close our session, I think that's right and fitting from Emerald's point of view.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, I'll just echo your thanks, Wendy, to everyone here on the call, and also our editors who couldn't make it today, just for joining us really in this amazing work that we're doing. And I just can't wait to see how the series continues to evolve. As you say, the second half of the series might look very different to the first, and we're really kind of bringing together just this amazing dynamic group, and so many voices are coming to light from this. So very, very excited, and yeah, just thank you so much everyone for joining, and keep in touch.
Thank you. I'll start recording. Thanks so much.